size of the slabs that we're standing on?
Well, this is one of my favourite areas on the Giza Plateau because you can see a lot of engineering evidence here, and the evidence I see in this area is not something that I'd heard about on television, not something that I'd seen in anybody's lectures at conferences, so it was quite a revelation when I first came here with Yusuf Awiyan in 2011, and must give him credit for pointing out a lot of these things. And one of the first things to note is that we are surrounded by these big granite blocks, pieces of granite, the remains of what have been carved away and taken off for various different purposes, and you can see quite a few of them that have been carved into millstones that they were taking away, and they've broken them in the process. And so you can see here, this is where they've been cutting the blocks in fairly modern times. Recycling. I would rather they'd left them alone. So what we can say is that the bottom layers, and probably up about 4 or 5 levels, was granite, but we know that the granite doesn't go all the way up to the top of the second Khafre pyramid because we've still got casing stones, which you can't really see from this angle, but there's limestone casing stones at the top. So this image we've been given of the pyramids perhaps all white isn't correct. The evidence is here, and it shows us that there was obviously a red base. And all of them, you can see at the Menkaure and also the Great Pyramids, they would have been two-tone coloured, and back in the day obviously reflecting the light in quite an amazing way. They were like the lighthouses of the desert, they've been called.
Technological reason for that, Gary, as well as aesthetics?
Well, that's when you can start speculating on a few areas, but you can see around the other side on the granite blocks that there's what they call the knobs, the protrusions from the granite. They're not flat blocks, and it's the same thing that you see in Cusco on the megalithic blocks, which are very similar design. And so the speculation for that is something to do with earthquake proofing, which was a theory I was quite keen on for a while, but it just didn't seem to ring true after a while. So perhaps it was more to do with energetics. If we are looking at them as vibrating structures, it's some kind of dampening, or that they were basically able to get these vibrating in a certain way and distribute load of the vibration, because if it got to a certain point it could obviously push itself apart.
So Gary, we're sitting on the Giza Plateau, which is at latitude 30 degrees. It's quite a geologically stable part of the planet. It's a very special location. I guess this being built on bedrock then kind of vibrates with the earth.
That's certainly what Chris Dunn has been looking at. So they don't have very many earthquakes here. That is how they're saying that the casing stones have eventually fallen off. I think there's been a few earthquakes noted through the last 2,000 years, but generally it's pretty stable. But Chris Dunn's theory was that the pyramids were amplifying the natural resonance of the planet. That was one of his theories.
Release of energy. Harmonic oscillator.
Yeah, that was the lines of thought that he was going along. And so if you're amplifying planetary forces, you obviously need quite a large structure. Well, yeah, and not just one of them. There's a huge Great Pyramid just over there, and then we've got the Menkaure. And again, if you are dealing on that level, perhaps the spacing of the structures and the reason that one's slightly smaller, I mean, it's just such a huge amount of engineering and effort that they've gone to, and completely over-engineered. That's what we must understand. Over-engineered for the purpose of just a tomb.
You can obviously see the angle, Gary, of the casing stones here. Is there any of the casing stones still intact, built into the base of the pyramid?
Yes, around the other side, that we can look at later. I mean, there might be one up there that's still in its original position. This one over here hasn't moved too far. You can see that one's only dropped a bit. But it's like a debris field of granite, graveyard of granite from the Khafre pyramid. But the other thing, the reason that we've come to this particular section is because of the blocks on the floor.
So, when we started around the other side, Gary, we had maybe 200-ton slabs, 300-ton slabs.
Well, they're kind of almost 15 feet square. I mean, it's huge slabs that they've used to level off the plateau. But what we do see here is that the solid bedrock actually is part of the structure. The blocks aren't. These are not blocks. This is carved bedrock, and it goes up. I mean, the blocks, it looks like, probably start up about the 5th level here.
Wow.
We can see the individual blocks, yeah. But you can see it better on this corner, where it just comes up steps from the natural bedrock. So they've actually tied in the pyramid right into the bedrock, which again would obviously help for stability and possibly to do with amplifying energetic properties.
In terms of spirituality,
There's still one chamber that I've yet to get in inside of this one that's supposed to have very good acoustics. The main chamber, which has a very interesting, you could say, sarcophagus or a resonance box inside it, and it's not quite as good as the Great Pyramid. I always go to the Great Pyramid, which we're going to later today, but if the Great Pyramid didn't exist, I mean, it would be mind-blowing. But the Great Pyramid's just over there. In terms, the Great Pyramid is far more sensitive to sound, and because the Grand Gallery definitely seems to be acting as an amplifier in there, and we don't have that kind of similar structure in the Capricorn Pyramid, although there's possibly more to discover in this one, because we haven't got any idea of anything that might be up inside. You go down. We've had some good chanting sessions in there. The Menkara third pyramid, the smaller one, we've actually had some more interesting experiences. You can just see the tip protruding from the plateau. But like I say, that they've closed the main chamber that has acoustics in this one. Every time I've been there, it's always been locked. They only let you into the other main chamber. So more to come, hopefully, from this pyramid. So here we are, the Giza Plateau. My favourite pyramid just in the background. We're going to be going in there a bit later. I've been away from Egypt for a year and I forgot how much I missed it here. And you have to say that it is energetically very, very powerful. But there isn't really any way of getting around it. Last night, I had a long flight, a lot of travelling yesterday, and I didn't feel tired. I should have felt sleepy. Then I only had about 5.5 hours sleep, and when I woke up, it was like I woke up and I'd already had a coffee. Didn't wake up feeling groggy at all. There's just this atmosphere here, and I feel happier, kind of more alive. It's a lot less dense than how I feel in Europe, particularly around London, which has this kind of heavy atmosphere. I kind of feel lighter and freer here. And we were fortunate to go inside the Sphinx Temple, and you can literally feel this kind of energy pulsating in there. And something better experienced and felt than described, because it might sound a bit woo-woo. I'm just saying, I'm talking about energy all the time, but there isn't any better term to try and explain it via the camera. And after coming to Egypt many times, I mean, I'm excited about going into the Great Pyramid later today, because the acoustics inside, which is one of my favourite areas, if not most special to me, because of how I've grown through using sound. Inside the Great Pyramid, you can get the main chamber, the King's Chamber, resonating in harmony with your body, and you get these sound waves penetrating deep inside you. And I'll be interested to see what James and Jana feel later today. It's always a joy sharing it with different people, getting their impressions. But I've done it many times and heard lots of different people's experiences, and it is something that most people feel very strongly when you take them inside. And I was talking to a scientist, Paolo de Bertolis, who's been doing a lot of archaeoacoustic research, and he was using an EEG machine, and he noted that the people that have been practicing meditation, getting into this still point in their mind, of being comfortable, just being quiet and still, got a lot more out of using acoustics than people that haven't been practicing meditation. And I think the main reason for that is because a lot of people do feel a bit uncomfortable just sitting quietly with themselves. It's not something that we're nurtured to do in the West, so it can be a bit unnerving, or our mind is quite often distracting us, making us look around, check the phone, take a photo, just to keep us kind of busy and occupied. So this is one of the things that I try to encourage people to do when we come to ancient sites, to just settle, give yourself a chance to see what you feel and experience, because these places were not designed for people to be coming and taking photographs. There was metaphysical experiences being happening here. The temples that we will go to on our tour are places for inner reflection, inner work, deep sort of philosophizing and insights, and lots of different understandings of how the natural world works, these kind of subjects, what we're going to do with our lives, how we can inspire others. These are things that we can still do here today. Egypt gives you a bit of a time out. Life is very raw here, you could say. Everything's on the surface, things that are kind of hidden in Europe. You see the trash that's around, and the people have a kind of fire in their spirit that seems to be a bit dulled in Western cities from my experience. So there's this kind of aliveness, and the sights and smells of Cairo, I always enjoy them when I come back.